So I hope you enjoyed that story about Mindy's grandmother. And I hope you're ready for the other story about a fearless woman. As we celebrate the International Women's Day on March 8th. So according to the National Assessment of Adult Literacy, the definition of literacy is the ability to use written and printed information to function in society, to achieve one's goals, and to develop one's knowledge and potential. I grew up in Pakistan, where the literacy rate for women is less than 50%, and less than 12% of women in the rural areas get more than a secondary education. But despite these hurdles, the women of Pakistan are tenacious and fearless. It could be the legendary Mai Kulachi, who went into a storm to look for her husband and son, and for whom the city of Karachi is named. Or it could be a more recent person like Sabine Mahmood, who I knew personally. And Sabine was assassinated on her way home from work. And the reason for her assassination was as simple as her creating a space for people, poets, artists, authors to come and speak freely. That was her crime for which she was assassinated. But today, the story I'm going to tell you is about a girl who was born on July 12, 1997, in Mingora, Swat Valley, which is in the north of Pakistan. And as is often the reaction of a family in Pakistan, when a girl is born, it is considered a sadness. But when this girl was born in Mingora Valley, in Mingora and Swat Valley, her father actually celebrated her birth. And he knew from that time that she was destined for great things. And he named her Malala, after a Pashtun poetess and warrior. And when Malala was only 4 years old in 2001, America waged its war on terror in neighboring Afghanistan. And at that time, Malala was living with her parents, her father, who was a teacher and had just started a school for girls, her mother, who was a homemaker, her two younger brothers, and two chickens. And she used to play in the yard. She would play with her friends and had no idea at 4 years old what was happening across the border in Afghanistan. But with the war on terror in Afghanistan, 3.2 million Afghanis crossed the border of Afghanistan into Pakistan and Iran and became refugees. By the time Malala was 10 years old, she was going to school, she was playing with her friends, she would wear colorful clothes. She had no idea what was going on. But with those refugees who had come across the border of Afghanistan into Pakistan, had also come the Taliban. And by that time, the Taliban had advanced into Swat Valley and had taken hold of Swat Valley. Now, Swat Valley at that time, and even now, is nature's gift. With its snow-capped mountains and springs and waterfalls, it is considered the Switzerland of the East. And the Taliban took this area over. They, in just that short period of time, destroyed 400 girls' schools. Girls were banned from going to school. Nobody was allowed to sing. Girls were not allowed to go out and play in the yards or play, wear colorful clothes, meet friends. By this time, the news of how the Taliban had taken over the Swat Valley had become international news. And a reporter from BBC World for the Urdu language portion approached Malala's father, who by this time had also become an activist fighting for the rights of the people in Swat Valley. And this journalist approached her father and asked if there would be somebody who could give their personal inside view about what was happening and how the Taliban were impacting their lives in Swat Valley. And he asked if there was somebody who would write a blog for them. And Malala's father looked around and asked different people, but everybody was too afraid of the Taliban to do it. And then Malala's father had an idea. And he volunteered Malala, who at 11 years old, to write a blog for BBC World's Urdu language edition. Now, I can just imagine what her mother must have said to her father at that time. If I was her mother, I would have said, are you insane? Are you crazy? You're putting our daughter's life in danger by doing this. But Malala was fearless, and her father knew that she was going to do something amazing. So to protect her, they decided to have her write under a pseudonym of Gul Makai, which means cornflower, and was also the name of a character in a very famous Pashtun folktale. And Malala started blogging for BBC World Urdu language. And in one of her posts titled, "Do Not Wear Colored Clothes," she writes that one day she woke up and she was so excited because after so many days, they were going to go back to school, but in hiding. And she was about to put on her uniform when she remembered that they had been told, do not wear your uniform because if the Taliban see you, you will be in danger. So instead of putting on her uniform to go to school, she put on her favorite pink outfit. And when she got to school, all her friends were wearing colorful dresses and colorful outfits. And then the principal called them all for assembly and told them that tomorrow when you come to school, do not wear colored clothes because the Taliban have banned girls from wearing colorful clothes and we do not want to attract any attention. And for the next 3 years, Malala continued to blog for BBC World, but then she gave up her anonymity and started interviewing and giving interviews on Pakistan television, writing against the Taliban in different articles and for different publications. And because of her fight to protect the right of girls' education, Desmond Tutu nominated her for the International Children's Peace Prize. And the following year, she was actually awarded Pakistan's National Youth Peace Prize. By this time, the Taliban were really not happy with the activism and Malala speaking out against them. And they put out a death fatwa, an edict for her death, and not only for her, but also her father. And a reporter one time asked Malala, aren't you afraid about this death fatwa? What are you going to do if the Taliban come? And she said, I think about that sometimes when I'm getting ready for bed. And I think that if the Taliban come, to protect myself, I'll just pick up my shoe and I'll throw it at them. But then I think that how am I any better than them if I respond to violence with violence? So maybe what I'll do is I'll sit them down and I'll talk to them and I'll tell them that I'm not only fighting for my right to education, I'm also fighting for the rights of your sisters and your daughters. But Malala never had the chance to have this conversation, this very naive conversation with the Taliban. On October 9th, 2012, She was coming home on a bus with two of her friends on public transportation. And the bus was stopped by two masked gunmen on a motorcycle. One of them climbed onto the bus and asked, "Which one of you three is Malala? Tell me now, or I will shoot all three of you." And I wonder what must have gone through her head at that time, or even if she thought about it when she stood up and said, "I am Malala." The gunman raised his Colt 45 and shot her in the face. The bullet entered her forehead and traveled through all the way down and lodged in her neck. In the chaos that came up, the two men on the motorcycle escaped. Malala was taken to a hospital in Islamabad. And because of their foiled attempt at assassinating her, they gave out word that they were going to continue to look for her and finish her. And because of the threats against her, Malala, still unconscious, was airlifted to a hospital in Birmingham, England. The day after Malala was shot, 2 million Pakistanis signed a petition for the Right to Education Act, which was ratified right away. 10 days later, when Malala woke up in the hospital in Birmingham, she was told that there were numerous people in Pakistan and all over the world that had been praying for her recovery. She had many surgeries and had to go through numerous amount of hours of therapy to learn how to speak again, to walk again. But on her 16th birthday, less than a year from her assassination attempt, she addressed the UN. And she said that between 2003 and 2006 were the most difficult time in her life, because that is when she had to decide whether to speak up or to be silent. And she decided that being silent because of the fear and terror that was being caused by the Taliban was worse than speaking up. The following year, when Malala was 17, she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, and till today is the youngest Nobel laureate. She and her father started the Malala Fund, which is a not-for-profit for providing education to girls all over the world. Today, Malala is 24. She still has to go through surgeries, but she has written 3 books, one of which is We Are Displaced, stories about refugee girls all over the world. She continues to work with the Malala Fund to raise money and to build schools all over the world. She has graduated from Oxford College in England in economics, philosophy, and politics. And her work and the impact of her work continues to reach girls all over the world. As Malala said, the extremists have shown what they fear most: a girl with a book.